Sometimes it's hard to wrap our heads around what is it that produces conflict and why do we have so much of it?
Search for Common Ground, the mission is to transform the way the world deals with conflict away from an adversarial approach and towards collaborative problem solving. So with that in mind, we're not trying to end conflict because we actually believe conflict is a natural part of the human experience, and when it's approached constructively, it's an engine of growth and transformation. You know, the Dalai Lama says love and compassion aren't luxuries, but they're necessary for human survival. What we have found in transforming conflict is that when you're able to awaken the compassion, then people can go from this to standing side by side and then looking at the problems together. And when that energy is not battling, but the energy is focused on a shared problem, then you get creativity and you get new solutions.
How do you get the largest number of young people to develop that temperament, capacity, skill set, to have a taste of what it feels like to address a problem you're really passionate about, and to first seek to understand before you seek to convince?
The arts play a real critical role in creating the kind of world that we want to live in the kind of world that isn't free necessarily from conflict, but is free from the real damaging conflict, because if conflict is something necessary, we need it. But how do we live in a world where we can be who we want to be, where we can care about what we care about, and where that care doesn't necessarily have to show up as a threat to somebody else?
There is a great deal that can be done in this space of using media for social change for a couple of reasons. One is that face-to-face interaction that you used to only be able to have when you put people physically in a room together, you can now have on the internet, not through the anonymous chat rooms, those can be quite destructive, but through web conferencing applications and this kind of thing.
We become so interdependent, so interconnected, the problems are so complex that we can't solve them with the same mindset that created them.
37.5% of New Yorkers are foreign-born. If we were to add in their children, so the children of immigrants, that makes up 60% of New York. What does that mean for our school system? So 42% of the kids in our school system come from a home where a language other than English is spoken. And so the critical question is, how do we disseminate information as a government to the people we aim to serve?
There's an interesting dynamic that happens when a group of people go from fighting each other to looking at the same issue. When you get people from many different stakeholders like you're talking about, looking at the same problem, you come out with solutions that are much different.
Definitely.
It's really a shift, the words I would use is shift in consciousness. It's a shift in consciousness that starts right here with me, myself. How do I deal with differences? Do I stereotype? Do I demonize? Do I attack the other?
Fear is a real deep driver of conflict. And the other thing is that something isn't threatening unless you deeply care about it. It's you are passionate and you are angry, and let's figure out what is underneath that. What is the deep care underneath that?
Africa ripped my heart open, big time. I have seen more suffering and more inspiration side by side in Africa. And I've learned so much from the people all across Africa. When humans start to rediscover their common humanity, there's joy, celebration, music, dancing, and you put that side by side with a woman who's had both arms cut off. It's just kind of like, it just rips the heart open.
Let's stop pretending that culture and religion is what divides us. There are real political differences here and there are power issues. And until we generate the political will to address them, the cross-cultural education work is going to feel like a drop in the ocean.
Peace is not abstract. Peace is really about how do we treat each other, how do we relate to each other, how do we walk in the world. It's how you start to make those changes. It's how we build that world that we want to live in.